I woke to the sound of chainsaws. Not the gentle hum of a neighbor trimming a hedge, not the occasional drone of a distant lawnmower. This was a violent mechanical scream, saw blades biting into ancient wood, tearing through bark and sapwood, with relentless hunger. My eyes snapped open, heart pounding, as the noise ripped through the stillness of a Florida morning. It was 6:17 a.m., the sky just beginning to blush with the soft pinks and oranges of sunrise, but the peace was gone. Sat up in bed, disoriented. For a moment I thought I was dreaming, then the scent hit me, pine, resin, damp earth, and something deeper, more primal, the smell of dying trees. My breath caught in my throat. "No," I whispered. I threw back the covers and stumbled to the window, bare feet slapping against the hardwood floor. Through the glass I saw them. The oaks, 3 towering southern live oaks, gnarled ancient, their limbs draped in Spanish moss like mourning veils, were being hacked apart by men in yellow safety vests. One was already down, its massive trunk split open, roots clawing at the sky like the fingers of a buried giant. Another was being stripped of its limbs, the canopy crashing to the ground in slow, tragic arcs. The third still stood, but its fate was sealed. A bulldozer idled nearby, its blade glistening with dew. And then I saw the sign, a bright orange placard staked into the lawn where my wife used to sit on summer evenings, reading poetry beneath the shade. Work authorized by the Cypress Shores Homeowners Association. Removal of obstructive vegetation for view enhancement and safety compliance. My knees buckled, I sank to the floor, my hands pressed against the glass. They were cutting down her trees, the trees I'd planted with Evelyn 10 years ago, after she was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. The trees we'd watered together when she was too weak to walk. The trees she'd named hope, grace, and memory after the virtues she said had carried her through. She had died beneath. Memory. She'd asked me to scatter her ashes there, and now they were being murdered for a view. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring, as the machines worked with cold, bureaucratic efficiency. And in that moment, something inside me died too. But something else was born. A fire, a purpose, a vow. They thought they were improving the view, but they had just opened a door to a truth so dark, so corrupt, that it would unravel an entire community. And in the end, I wouldn't just win, I would own it. Chapter 1. The life we built. Evelyn and I moved to Cypress Shores in 2008, the year the housing market collapsed. We weren't fleeing the crash, we were escaping grief. Our daughter Lily had died at 9 months old from a rare congenital heart defect. The hospital bills bankrupted us. The grief broke us. For 2 years we wandered, first to a tiny apartment in Atlanta, then to a rented cottage in Ash, but the memories followed us. Every creak of the floorboard, every flicker of light was a ghost. Then Evelyn found Cypress Shores. It was a gated community on the edge of Lake Serenity in Central Florida. 187 homes nestled around a private marina, tennis courts, and a clubhouse modeled after a southern plantation. It was quiet, lush, safe, and affordable. We bought a modest 3-bedroom on a corner lot for $245,000 cash after selling our old house and liquidating what was left of our savings. The realtor called it a fixer-upper with character. I called it a fresh start. The house had potential: wraparound porch, high ceilings, original hardwood floors. But the yard was barren, just patches of crabgrass and a few stunted shrubs. Evelyn looked at it and smiled. "We'll grow something beautiful," she said, and we did. We spent weekends planting azaleas, camellias, and a row of crepe myrtles along the driveway. But the centerpiece was the trio of southern live oaks we ordered from a nursery in Gainesville. They weren't saplings, we wanted mature trees, ones that could provide shade immediately. Each was over 20 feet tall, their roots wrapped in burlap like precious relics. We planted them on a Saturday in April. Evelyn wore a sun hat and a yellow sundress. I remember her laughing as she shoveled dirt, her hands caked in soil. We poured champagne into plastic cups and toasted to new beginnings. "To roots," she said. "To roots," I echoed. That night we sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, watching fireflies dance in the twilight. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I think I can be happy here," she whispered. And for a while we were. We joined the neighborhood book club. I fixed up the HOA's broken irrigation system for free. Evelyn started a garden club and taught the kids how to grow tomatoes. We made friends, we laughed, we healed. Then in 2013 the cough started. It began as a tickle, then a wheeze, then pain, deep, bone-aching pain in her side. By the time the doctors diagnosed stage 4 ovarian cancer, it had spread to her liver and lungs. The next 18 months were a blur of hospitals, chemo, and false hope. Through it all, the oaks stood sentinel. When Evelyn was too weak to walk, I brought her chair outside so she could feel the breeze. When she couldn't speak, I read to her under the tress Mary Oliver, Rumi, Emily Dickinson. And when she died, on a quiet Tuesday in October, I buried a small urn of her ashes at the base of the largest oak. I carved her name into a copper plaque and nailed it to the trunk. Evelyn Rose, beloved wife, dreamer, gardener. She planted trees so others could find shade. For 5 years, those trees were my sanctuary. And then, one morning, they were gone. Chapter 2. The woman who controlled the view. The HOA president, Margaret Holloway, had been in power for 12 years. 12 years she'd been elected in 2007 during the community's founding year and never lost an election since. Not because she was beloved, not because she was competent, because she was feared. Margaret was a former real estate attorney, sharp, impeccably dressed, with a voice like a steel ruler snapping against a chalkboard. She lived in the largest house in the development, a 5-bedroom Mediterranean villa on the lakefront with a private dock and a 30-foot sailboat named Serenity 2. She was also a widow, though no one ever spoke of her late husband, rumors said. He'd died under mysterious circumstances, suicide, some claimed. Others whispered about a falling out, a bitter divorce, a will that mysteriously disappeared. But whatever the truth, Margaret ruled Cyprus Shores with an iron fist. She chaired every committee, controlled the budget, handpicked the board members, and she had a zero-tolerance policy for non-compliant landscaping, which is why, when I called her that morning, I wasn't surprised by her tone. "Daniel," she said, answering on the second ring. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. "I was just about to call you. You had my trees cut down," I said, my voice shaking. "Daniel, please, let's not be dramatic. We removed 3 hazardous trees that were obstructing views and posing a safety risk. It was authorized by the board. Hazardous. They were inspected last year. They were healthy. An arborist's report commissioned by the HOA. Structural instability in 2 of the trunks. Risk of limb failure. We had no choice. Bullshit. You did this for the view. You want to sell your damn boat easier." There was a pause, then coldly, "I don't appreciate your tone, Daniel. This was a lawful board-approved action. If you have concerns, you may file a formal appeal. But I suggest you do so calmly and with proper documentation." The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, staring at the wreckage in my yard. Pieces of Evelyn's trees lay scattered like broken bones. The stump of hope was already being ground down by a machine that looked like a mechanical shark. I dropped to my knees, and for the first time since Evelyn died, I wept. Chapter 3, the first crack in the facade. Didn't file an appeal, I filed a lawsuit. 3 days later, I walked into the office of Marjorie Lynn, a civil rights attorney in Orlando who specialized in HOA abuse cases. She listened in silence as I told her about the trees, about Evelyn, about Margaret Holloway's call. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Daniel," she said, "I'm sorry for your loss, but I have to be honest. HOAs have broad authority over landscaping, especially when it comes to common area views and safety, unless you can prove the trees weren't actually hazardous, or that the HOA violated its own bylaws. This is going to be an uphill battle." But they didn't even notify me. They're not required to if it's deemed an emergency. This wasn't an emergency. Marjorie sighed. "Look, I'll take the case, but I'll need evidence. Photos, witness statements, anything that shows this was personal, not procedural." I nodded. Then I asked the question I'd been dreading. "How much will this cost?" She named a number, $28,000 retainer, plus expenses. I didn't have it. I still had some savings, Evelyn's life insurance, a small inheritance from her mother, but not that much. "I'll pay you," I said, "whatever it takes." She studied me. Then, quietly, "There might be another way. What if the HOA violated the law in a way that caused financial harm? You could sue for damages. And if you win big enough, you could recover legal fees." "How big depends on the fraud." "Fraud," she raised an eyebrow. "You think this is just about trees?" Chapter 4. I didn't answer, the hidden ledger. I started digging, not just into the tree removal, but into Margaret Holloway herself. I joined the HOA's public meetings, something I hadn't done in years. I sat in the back, notebook in hand, listening as she reviewed budgets, approved landscaping changes, and dismissed homeowner complaints with a wave of a hand. One night, I noticed something odd. The HOA's annual report listed $35,000 expenditure for drainage improvements near the marina, but there were no drainage improvements. I walked the area the next day. Nothing had changed. No new pipes, no grading, no construction. I filed a public records request. Under Florida law, homeowners have the right to inspect HOA financial records. They gave me a stack of PDFs, bank statements, invoices, meeting minutes, and that's when I found it. A series of payments over the past 3 years totaled $347 made to a company called Silver Sands Land Management. The invoices claimed services, tree trimming, irrigation repair, pest control, but the dates didn't match. One tree trimming job was billed for a week in January, when a freeze had shut down all outdoor work. Another irrigation repair was for $48,000 more than the entire system was worth, and the company, Silver Sands Land Management, didn't exist. I checked Florida Division of Corporations. No record. I called the phone number on the invoice. Disconnected. I ran the address, a P.O. box in Tampa. Then I found a name on a subcontractor form, Raymond Holloway, Margaret's brother, a known con artist with 2 fraud convictions. I printed everything, took it to Marjorie. She read through the documents, her eyes narrowing. "Daniel," she said slowly, "this isn't just embezzlement. This is a pattern, and if you can prove it, you might have grounds for a class action suit." A class action? Every homeowner in Cyprus Shores has been overpaying dues to fund Margaret's little scheme. You're not just suing for your tries, you're suing for all of us. I felt a chill. This wasn't just personal, it was criminal. Chapter 5. The whistleblower. Wasn't the only one who hated Margaret. It took me a week to find someone brave enough to talk. Her name was Dolores Meeks, a retired schoolteacher who lived 2 streets over. She'd been on the HOA board for 2 years before resigning for health reasons. I knocked on her door with a plate of cookies, Evelyn's recipe. She invited me in. We sat in her sunroom, surrounded by orchids and framed photos of her grandchildren. When I showed her the documents, her hands trembled. She's been doing this for years, Dolores whispered, overbilling, fake contracts, kickbacks. She even rerouted funds to buy that boat of hers, the Serenity, she charged it to marina maintenance. I stared at her and no one stopped her. Who would? She controls the audit committee. She picks the accountant. She threatens anyone who speaks up. Like you, she nodded. After I questioned a $20,000 roof repair at the clubhouse where no work was done, she had my sprinkler system inspected, said I was violating water restrictions. Fine me $1,200. She can't do that. She did, and she'd do worse to you, Daniel. Be careful. I thanked her, left with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. Margaret Holloway wasn't just corrupt, she was dangerous. Chapter 6. This thing. Marjorie and I devised a plan. We hired a private investigator, Frank Velasquez, a former FBI agent with a nose for financial fraud. Frank went undercover as a landscaping contractor, calling Silver Sands Land Management and offering services. A man answered, Raymond Holloway. They set up a meeting. Frank wore a wire. The recording was damning. Raymond admitted that Silver Sands was a shell company, that Margaret funneled HOA money through it, that he kicked back 60% to her personally. She takes it in cash, he said, drops it in a safe behind a painting in her study. He even described the painting as seascape, fake Monet. We at him, but we needed more. We needed proof that the tree removal was retaliatory, so we subpoenaed the arborist report. The HOA claimed justified the cutting. It didn't exist. The arborist, listed Dr. Alan Price, was a veterinarian in Tallahassee. Had fraud, we had forgery, we had theft, and now we had motive. Chapter 7. The lawsuit we filed in Orange County Circuit Court. The suit had 3 parts: trespass and property damage for the unauthorized destruction of my trees, valued at $84,000 in replacement and emotional distress; fraud and embezzlement for the $347,000 stolen from the HOA; abuse of power and retaliation for targeting me after I'd previously complained about her brother's unlicensed work on my fence. We also sought class action status. The response was immediate. Margaret called an emergency HOA meeting. She stood at the podium, elegant in a navy pantsuit, and told the crowd I was a grieving man lashing out and that the lawsuit was frivolous and damaging to property values. She denied everything. But then, the walls began to crack. Homeowners started coming forward. A man whose pool lights were never fixed after being billed $7,000. A woman whose approved fence renovation was fined for non-compliance after she voted against Margaret. A couple who discovered their $12,000 roof repair was actually a new patio cover for Margaret's guest house. The board fractured. 2 members resigned. The treasurer, a quiet accountant named Louise, handed over internal emails showing Margaret I'd pressured him to adjust the books. We amended the suit. Now we were seeking $1.2 million in damages, $347,000 in stolen funds, plus $853,000 in punitive damages. And we added a new demand: the forced sale of HOA assets to repay homeowners, including Margaret's waterfront lot. Chapter 8. The trial. The trial began in March. It lasted 6 weeks. The courtroom was packed. Homeowners, reporters, even a local news crew. Margaret sat at the defense table, flanked by a high-priced attorney from Miami. I sat with Marjorie, Frank, and Dolores. The evidence was overwhelming. We played the wiretap. We showed the fake invoices. We brought in an arborist who testified that my oaks were healthy, among the finest specimens in the county. We proved the tree removal was scheduled the day after I emailed the board complaining about a missing $8,000 security upgrade. Retaliation. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Then came the verdict: guilty on all counts. The judge awarded $84,000 for property damage and emotional distress, $347,000. In restitution, $969,000. In punitive damages, total $1.4 million. And because the HOA was insolvent, its accounts drained, the judgment was placed as a lien against all HOA-owned property, including Margaret's lot. And the clubhouse and the marina. Chapter 9. The auction. 6 months later, the court ordered a public auction of the liened properties. I showed up with a cashier's check. I didn't bid on the marina. I didn't bid on the clubhouse. I bid on lot 17. Margaret Holloway's waterfront estate. Starting price $620,000. I bid $621,000. No one else raised a hand. The gavel fell. Sold to Daniel Reyes. Margaret watched from the back, pale, her hands clenched. As I walked out, I passed her. She hissed, "You think this is over? I'll fight you." I stopped, looked her in the eye. "This isn't about revenge, Margaret. It's about justice. Then I added softly, and Evelyn, she'd be proud of the view. Chapter 10. The new beginning. I didn't move into the house. I donated the marina to the local fishing club. The clubhouse became a community center run by a new, transparent board, and Lot 17. I turned it into a park. I replanted oaks, 5 of them. I installed a bronze bench with an inscription, in memory of Evelyn Rose, and in defense of truth, trees, and the right to grieve in peace. I also founded the Cypress Shores Restoration Fund, using a portion of the judgment to reimburse homeowners who'd been overcharged. And me, I still live in our old house. The yard is healing. New grass, new flowers. And every morning, I walk to the stump of memory. I pour a little water and I talk to her sometimes. The wind moves the Spanish moss just right, and for a second, I swear I can hear her laugh. Epilogue. The ripple effect. My story went viral. Not because I won $1.4 million, but because I proved that even the smallest person can stand up to power today. 17 states have introduced Daniel's Law, legislation to increase transparency in HOAs, require independent audits, and protect homeowners from retaliatory fines. Marjorie runs a non-profit now, helping others fight corrupt associations. Frank opened his own pie firm. Dolores published a memoir in Margaret. Last I heard, she was living in a condo in Naples, working part-time at a gift shop. No boat, no power, no empire, just silence. As for the trees, they're growing back, and so am I.